All right, here we are again, and we're going to take a look at sort of what I've got going on with my game shelving and storage now. It's definitely a little different from the last tour video. Some elements of it may be familiar, but the locations of a lot of stuff has changed, and where I'm storing stuff, I've got a few new different shelving systems. So yeah, we're just gonna look at it. So I mean, I have pretty well maximized most of the wall space that I've got downstairs available for storing games. So right here we've got, as you have hopefully seen from the episode that we did with Game Dave on Game Boy shelving and display. These are actually nail polish racks. Acrylic nail polish racks is intended to put like bottles of nail polish in. I was searching online for like cheap acrylic shelving, and that was what came up. I'm like, I think that would look really cool for Game Boy games. So, they just kind of sit in here in their cases and lean back. Game Boy is definitely a system that has had a big revival for me in recent years. I mean, I'm sure many people have a much larger Game Boy collection, but sometimes I'm surprised by how much I've gotten back into the system. I mean, a lot of these games have been bought in more recent years because after the Game Boy became old, I didn't really add much to my collection for a long time. But I really like the system nowadays. Over here is a mostly empty shelf. I've got some of these really cool Famicom Mini boxes in it. These are so much better than the NES minis or whatever they call them for the US. Like they come in these like actual boxes that have like a miniature version of the box in it. And I just really like these boxes to display. These were actually sent by a very generous viewer of the show, and I bought the Super Mario Brothers one myself. This particular shelf right here, I bought it more recently with the intent of this is where I'm going to start putting my Game Gear games. I've actually got, I think, 7 Game Gear games sitting upstairs. I haven't officially added them to my collection yet because I don't have a system to play them on yet, but I've been starting to acquire them. So Game Gear games will go here. And then down the hall a little further, I've got GBA games here. It's getting rather GBA is getting a little desperate for space over here. By the way, Coury is shooting this. If you were wondering, he hasn't said anything yet, and I didn't introduce the fact that he is shooting. But hi, Coury, if Coury wants to talk.
You've got a lot of cart only. Well, you have all of your Game Boy Advance games not in their boxes.
That's right, because I don't want to put like wear and tear on the boxes as I get them out, and I just want them to be accessible. But I do like these little cases that I have them inside because they're some these GBA cases that you can buy have like weird shapes and they don't sit correctly in here. So these are very sort of flat. They sit right. But yeah, it looks like I've only got really room for 7 more GBA games before I have to come up with...
That looks like a Game Gear game right there, but it's actually...
It's a Game Gear case, but it's the Drill Dozer game just because it's too big to fit in another case. I wanted it to be in something. It's the same thing over here with Kirby Tilt and Tumble. Is also in a Game Gear case because there's just a little more bulk to the cartridge. That it just needs a bigger case to fit in. So
you're gonna need a bigger case.
Yep. And these IKEA baskets down here, I've got analog cables in this one. Just, mostly like RCA and VGA and stuff like that. Anything that is generally used primarily for an analog purpose. And then the basket underneath has the extra long analog cables. So if I need to do a longer run, I go in there. And then over here is digital cables, so mostly like HDMI, DVI, fiber optic, anything I need to do a temporary or possibly permanent installation. And then again under here are the super long versions of digital cables. Over here, I need to improve what I've done over here. I used to have these controller drawers divided more logically, and I had some idea that I wanted to put like my best controllers in this drawer and my second best controllers in this drawer, and then my like garbage controllers that I'll probably never use, but I'm not going to throw them away in this drawer, and then stuff like multi-taps or light guns or mice, alternative stuff like that are in this drawer, but it actually makes it very difficult. I need to like kind of divide up by like system manufacturer again to make it easier to find the systems. And of course I like having them in these little bags because they keep them separate without the cords getting tangled, and I don't have to. I don't like putting like Velcro cable ties on game controllers too much. So this just kind of keeps them nice and separate. I in the couch in the other room, I've got kind of the controllers that I mostly use, but when I need an extra or a different one, I come here.
What about up here? What do you got here?
Oh, these are, I guess, it's sort of a little bit of a Game Boy museum. I don't have my childhood original Game Boy anymore, but my cousin had 2 of them, and so this is one of hers. I also don't have my childhood Game Boy Pocket. I traded it in as part of what helped me buy the PS1 back then. So again, I just bought it online because I wanted it. As I mentioned in the setup tour video, I've kind of got these, I've just bought some garbage cartridges and got the labels and the PCBs off. I just kind of put these in as dust covers. A little $1 just junk games that no one cares about, like pets and stuff like that. This is my childhood Game Boy Color. It actually has, probably difficult to see, but it's got a little bit of a scratch on it right there on the surface, and that was caused by my childhood dog. So it's a little memento, I guess. And this is my original launch day Game Boy Advance.
The Arctic White. I remember the Arctic White as well.
Yeah. I'm kind of tired of white systems these days, but back then it was really cool. I still like the look of that original GBA. And this, I don't have my original SP anymore, but this is the brighter backlight one, which some people despise because of the ghosting. But it's such an easier screen to look at, in my opinion. It's just the easiest to play games on, I think. And then I've got the little Famicom GB Micro, which, I've never used it a lot, but it sure is pretty. And I've also, of course, got Virtual Boy, which, you might notice there are no Virtual Boy games out here, and that's because I only own one Virtual Boy game, which is Wario Land. I really like it, actually. I think it's the best Wario Land game after the original. I would like to own more Virtual Boy games. I used to own a few more, but regrets and everything. And then I've got one Game & Watch. This is Parachute, which is this is included with Game & Watch Gallery 2, which is I think one of the better Game & Watch games. I just wanted to own one Game & Watch, just to represent it. It's Game & Watch collecting is a can of worms. They are expensive and difficult to get a hold of. I think most people who are into collecting them want the boxes. So yeah, it's crazy. Over here, I've got under here. I did have up until recently. I had my DS, 3DS, PSP, and Vita games down here. I've actually got this. It's kind of a hacked IKEA unit. because you know they normally have this big square size of cube, right? But then I got a Billy series bookshelf and cut it to the right size, and then have pegs to sort of add additional shelving segments to here, which, you know, it's not necessary with the stuff I have on it right now, but since I originally bought this to put, you know, DS, 3DS and stuff on, and I've also kind of got some stoppers nailed to the back in here so that the games don't go too deep back. But right now I've just got Game Boy and Game Boy Advance boxes on there. I used to be staunchly, I know you are, Coury, like you have to have the box for GBA.
Well, just because I've committed for it.
And I did commit to it for a long time, but at one point I kind of just decided, like, you know, I think there's a lot of GBA games I want to play, and I feel like I am limiting my horizons by requiring box only, because some of them were just going to be kind of expensive with the box. So unlike Genesis, which I reversed my stance on that I went with... I decided it's okay to not have boxes for all GBA games. And we'll talk about Genesis a little more later. I've got an original DS. This one does have a video output mod that it's not that great, I don't think. I prefer to use the one I've got in my 3DS for capturing DS games. This is my original DS Lite, and it's got a chip. I think that was a pretty common issue, the hinge chip. It wasn't like that when I was using it, but I let my mom use it for a long time.
Oh, and then that's...
yeah, it's pretty floppy. But this, my mom still has, and she still uses my DSi. You know, she plays like Brain Age and stuff on it. But this is the DSi XL, which I love this system. It is definitely my preferred way to play DS games. And I bought it shortly after, like maybe a week or two after the 3DS launched, because I was not satisfied with the scaling quality on the 3DS for DS games. And I thought, okay, well, it feels like a really stupid purchase and I shouldn't be spending this money, but I want like a great system, like the best possible system for playing DS games for posterity, you know? So this has only been up a very short time. This is I think it might be a new-ish IKEA series called Svalnas. Svalnas. I believe the A has an umlaut on it. And I really like it. I wanted to spend a little less money on shelving the new expanded shelving than I did. But I realized that it's weirdly hard to find good media shelving. You know, shelves that aren't too deep, shelves that really let you maximize a lot of space. Like, I feel like my collection is not that crazy compared to a lot of people's. I mean, Coury's got more stuff than I've got. You would think that it would just be easier to find good, affordable shelving for large-ish collections. But it's hard. I feel like this smallness works really well. It's obviously not that efficient for this size of case since there's a lot of empty space. But I do like that it's got like the built-in bookends. And you can also choose between, I think these are like 31, 32 inch wide shelves. And you can also choose, I think, a 24 inch version. Or also deeper ones. But why would I want deeper ones? So DS, 3DS, I've got my original 3DS, my 3DS XL, the 3DS, the new 3DS XL is over there on the charging dock. That's what I mainly use. And then I've got PSP and Vita with the PSP 3000 in this case. So that pretty well sums up the handheld section, which I kind of had to move down the hallway because I was I was hurting for space. Kind of in the main section of the living room. So over here, I've got my PlayStation section, and this is a Gnedby IKEA unit, which they've had these for years and years and years. I've actually seen other people put their PlayStation 1 games on these. They're very efficient for CD-sized cases. Very narrow. You know, if you had a larger PS1 collection, you might kind of struggle. But, you know, my PS1 collection is relatively modest. I've got the Japanese games sort of at the bottom here. The imports at the bottom. I've sort of been back and forth on where I put imports in my collection. For cases that look the same, I've been kind of mixing them in, but now, and then at one point I was putting them on the front end, and now I'm kind of putting them on the back end. Actually, some of this is inconsistent about how I'm handling import positioning, but anyway, this is another Svalnus, so I've had this up very recently. And it's good for like DVD sized casing. It's very efficient, especially these long rails. If you're interested, the short rails that I've got over there for the handheld stuff, these are not very efficient because you have to have 4 pegs per shelf. But the short rails, these are, I forget what the exact length of that rail is, but these rails, you're going to have 3 leftover pegs. So these are not very efficient. This over here, these are the long Svalnus rails. And they're very efficient because you can, from the top peg all the way to the bottom peg, you can completely pack it with shelves, and you can fit 7 shelves. So I've got PS2, PS3, and PS4. At one point, I felt like I had a ton of PS3 games, and I know I sold a few, but when I look at this now, I'm just like, man, I really don't have as many PS3 games as I thought I did. And it was important that this Svalnus stuff have this open back because I had to. No, Sandy, no one's at the door. I just knocked the wall. See, that was me, Sandy. See, I was going. That's the wall. No, that's me. So over here, we've got the Nintendo stuff. I used to, until I added those Svalnus shelves, I kind of had things all mixed in chronological order. So it was, I've got the Nintendo up here, and then I was going like PC Engine, Genesis, etc. But I've kind of dedicated this section to just Nintendo stuff. These Nintendo shelves for the NES are actually official Nintendo NES shelves. And they were given to me by a local viewer of the show. And they're pretty neat. There are some drawbacks to them though. For example, you have to have a dust sleeve. These are reproduction dust sleeves. Most of these are reproductions from I think it was from videogameboxprotectors.com. And you have to have these in or else they won't fit. And I also kind of had to do a bit of a hack because these middle sections, the cartridges can be a little unstable in there. So this section might not have it. Over here I think does though. I had to add sort of, these are like plastic index card dividers, and I sort of slid these in to the shelf to then set the dust cover on. That just kind of adds some extra stability because these middle sections, like, they're just spaced weirdly. And they also, like, there's like some tabs in the back of the middle sections that cause the middle section of each shelf to jut out further than the side ones. I mean, I guess it's kind of an interesting look, but I have no idea why those are there. It's very weird. But yeah, I just got some knickknacks on the top for now. You know, obviously if I need more shelf space at some point, you know, stuff will move up and replace that. But for now, it's okay. So, you know, then we just go in order. We got Famicom, we got US Super Nintendo, and then we've got imports. All the way down to here where I've got at the end, I've got a European import because I accidentally purchased a a PAL Axelay. And then coincidentally, a local store had a Japanese Axelay, so I was able to correct that error. And then, of course, N64, GameCube, Wii, Wii U, Switch. Still blows my mind sometimes that I've got so many more Switch games than Wii U games already. But yeah, then there's just, there's space on the bottom. I mean, it's kind of hard to predict how much the Nintendo section will continue to grow because I have kept much more on top of my Nintendo collection throughout my life compared to other systems, I guess. So sometimes I feel like I'm not buying a lot of old Nintendo stuff. So yeah, and most of the Super Nintendo boxes and N64 boxes are the games, all of the games that I'm the original owner of, because I kept those boxes, with the exception of Super Metroid, which that box came from a rental store. But yeah, that you can kind of look at my N64 boxes and get an idea of these are the games that I actually purchased during the N64's heyday. And then over here, I used to have that Gnedby that's got the PlayStation games. It used to be on the other side of this door, but I ultimately moved this down to make room for that Svalnus. Over here are my soundtrack CDs, or any official game music CDs are here. Again, not a lot of room for expansion. I'll have some tough decisions to come to. I did end up taking the bootlegs off of this shelf, mostly to save room and also to sort of keep it in mind what I have and what I don't have official of. And then the last shelf section over here is this was my dad and I kind of collaborated to create this. These shelves in here are actually spares from this shelf because you can space the shelves however you need, and they gave you this many more extra shelves. So we built this to look very similar to that as relatively as possible, but it's essentially a frame. It's got the top, side, bottom, and back, but it was able to be much more affordable and easier to make thanks to already having these shelves. So this was, when I started using it, I was kind of putting like current gen stuff over here, but now this is like everything that is not Nintendo and not Sega and not handheld, or not Nintendo, not Sony, not handheld. That stuff's over here. So this is Sega, Master System, Genesis, Mega Drive, Sega CD. There's actually nothing in there. Probably because it's in my Sega CD. Yeah, the only case I have is Final Fight CD, the Japanese version. And then Saturn, not much of a Saturn collection. Got a couple of Japanese ones here. And then Dreamcast, and then PC Engine and TurboGrafx, and again in these, acrylic nail polish stands. And these, I really like these. These, I wish I could tell you off the top of my head what they're called, but they're some sort of PC card case, and this eBay seller sells them, and I really like them compared to those sort of credit card sleeves that a lot of people put PC Engine games in, because those kind of get really sticky and nasty over time. So I really like these. It also shows the game art really clearly. And then Turbo CD and PC Engine CD, such as. And then original Xbox, Xbox 360, and Xbox One. So, again, not sure. There are tough decisions to come to. The day of reckoning is coming for some of these shelves, and some systems may have to move other places. And my nice and neat organization of having Nintendo here, Sony here, handheld here, other stuff here, I might have to
Admit defeat.
Admit defeat. I guess that's the best way to put it. I might have to start to mix things together again. But for now, I like what's going on here.